The idea was that if I was that scared, that I want to scare an amputee so much, because when you're going off the cliff, I forgot about all my problems. I thought I was going to die. Psychologists say if you put people through stressful but positive experience, it can reset. It can end the depression. It can begin it. That positive experience of overcoming something, pushing that limit, is that experience that may start something new.
This is By Joey Joanne Season 2. I'm your host, Joanne Chan, and every Wednesday we bring you inspiring stories, powerful message, and fun conversations with me and my special guests and friends, and it's my personal mission to empower you to live and lead a life with joy. This podcast is for you if you're looking for more joy, courage, passion, and purpose in your life. Now let's dive into today's episode and get ready to laugh, learn, and live your life to the fullest. Our guest today is a five-time first-generation immigrant, Winter Olympian, NYU Stern graduate, 9/11 survivor, and the founder of Wings for Heroes, a public benefit corporation built on the mission that helps amputee veterans reclaim dignity, purpose, and joy through paragliding and adventure. His journey spans Wall Street trading desks, leadership in crisis and conflict, and humanitarian missions across continents. He is the co-author of Success Economics with Steve Forbes, and he has shared a stage at the United Nations with Brian Tracy. Today, he's here to talk about what it means to keep a promise, especially when there's no script, there's no paycheck, and there's no clear path forward. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcoming the hero among heroes, the one and only Lyubim Kogan. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Joanne. That was a really nice introduction. And hello, everyone. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me on.
You're welcome. It's truly my honor, and I just can't believe what I have read. Your bio. It was incredible. I've not come across anyone so far that has, your diverse experience, life experience, and the strength and mission that you are here to do. So let's start with keeping a promise because it's what you are here to talk about, I believe. So what promise did you make? Why did you choose to keep it, no matter the cost?
I think it would be best if we just talk about promises in general and how they make our lives easier and convenient. So, let's say, for example, imagine every month there is an employer who needs employees, and the agreement is that the employees will serve the employer. They'll do whatever the employer, the tasks that he requests from them, and then let's say every 2 weeks they will get a paycheck. So the promise is that you show up, you do your work, and I will pay you for that. Now imagine the situation if the employer did not keep that promise. So the employees spend 2 weeks working and then there is no paycheck. Well, what happens is then it's not only the promise that is broken between two people, the employer and the employee, it also, the employee has obligations. People have families, people have mortgages, people have car payments. So if that was the scenario, you see, it's just a simple example, but the domino effect, it's widespread. And if we live in a society where we start believing each other's promises, then we will have to do a lot more work. First of all, it will be really time consuming, and from the way we used to doing things, it may become, a lot of things will become impractical. So we make promises every day. People make promises to their spouse, to their neighbors, to their kids, to everyone. And a lot of times people don't even pause and think about what they're promising. And I don't know if you've been in a situation where somebody promised you something and it was like not a big deal to them, but to you it like meant everything. Like, let's say, a lot of times if you run your own business, you will be in a situation where there could be only one person that can help you. They say, yeah, I will help you, and then they get busy with stuff. It's not that they're breaking the promise, they're just not keeping it yet. So I think that we really need to spend a lot more time thinking about the consequences of the promises that we make. And if there is a case that you cannot do it, then just don't promise it. one of the things that you mentioned, it's like it starts with yourself. I think it's probably the most difficult promise to keep is the one to yourself, and at the same time, it could be the easiest one. If something is really important to you and you promise yourself that you will do it and you start working on that, the probability is that you will get there. But there are a lot of promises that we make that are like little small things that we don't even think that it's that important, but we do it so much. Like, I will get up in the morning and I'll exercise, right? It's one of the easiest ones to break for a lot of people because we need to get rest, and with the obligations a lot of times we just don't get enough sleep. But I'm saying that if you concentrate on just not making a promise until you're 100% committed, I think that would make a huge difference. So in other words, you will promise only to things that are important to you and you can commit to them right now, and not waste your mental energy. Yeah, not waste your mental energy going back and forth.
Yeah, I love that. So, commitment and promise, which comes first? Do we make a commitment first and then we make a promise, or we make a promise then we stick to it?
Okay, I think this is like the basic process of reaching your goals. It's like, let's say we have an internal compass that is somewhere. Somebody feels things from the heart. Somebody feels things that, when you feel like you want to do something and it's really important to you, just like people say it resonates with you, like it wants to come out of you. Well, that's at least how I experience it. Like, if I have this feeling that a thought wants to come out, I know that, like, I really need to pay attention to it. So let's say you can pick whatever goal you're working towards, and you say, yeah, this is really important to me. So first of all, it's understanding that this is really important to me and I want to do it. And this is basically the decision making process. Is first thing you make the decision. And this decision is that I am going to start my own business. I am going to train for the Olympics. I am going to do whatever it takes to have the best podcast. You made that decision, and then you figure out what you need to do. Then you make the decision is made, and then you see what you need to do, and then you get going. So the commitment part is actually staying with it. So I think decision is the first step. We have to decide. Like, when I decide, after that I don't need to think about am I doing it or not. I'm thinking, what am I doing to get to that commitment or to get to the goal that I decided that I want to pursue.
So, you made a decision to start Wings for Heroes. How did it begin and what has it become today?
Wow. Okay. It was a long process. So I think it would be fair to just go back in time. And I grew up in the 70s and in the 80s in the former Soviet Union. When I was 5, the Afghanistan war started, and it lasted until I was 16. And basically, when you grow up in the background of the war, I mean, it's just, you're a child of the war. Even if you don't go there, you see the consequences. And I was surrounded by a system that not only did not support veterans, they actually was a normal thing for police to find veterans in the evening and pick up fights with them. So I was a little kid and witnessing it almost every night. Like, at some point I started thinking, like, I know these guys are so cool because I did sports and they always helped me. They were really young and athletic, but they came back from Afghanistan with huge PTSD issues, and nobody was dealing with it. And self-medicating with alcohol is the worst thing that you can do. But they didn't have another option. So here I had this question. Actually, I had it for more than 40 years. Like, why is the system that uses these young men? They're kids, okay? Now I am, much older than they are, double their age, and I understand that they haven't seen anything in life. The system takes them out of their home environment and they send them to fight, and they may die, they may come back, with amputations or deaf or blind, and then they have nothing to do. In 2016, I went to the US in 1992. And then I worked long and hard, to become successful, and just, co-authoring book with Steve Forbes and then speaking at the end with Brian Tracy. I would not share this information with anybody unless I needed, to get the interest of somebody like you and people who are listening. But when I made it to the top of the financial world and I saw that the opportunity is just right there, I can go and do anything I wanted to. I ended up in Ukraine, and I had an offer from a nationwide infrastructure company. And basically, because I was an American in Ukraine, the people had a lot of hope, and I felt like I was their last hope, and I couldn't say no. And then after I said yes, I realized that the war is for real. So I didn't realize it before I signed on. I have to be honest in that case. But then, next 5, 6 years, it was trying to, build teams and teach people how to do things. And that required me to go and be on the ground, not just in the office making executive decisions, but actually showing people what a clean gas station looks like. What the standard is. I had to set the standard, and he was in one of our gas stations by the highway. I saw a double amputee roll out. It's a veteran, he didn't have two legs. He rolled out in his wheelchair and he went towards the highway. And I remember thinking to myself, there is no pedestrian walk. Like, forget about the wheelchair. You cannot walk. It's just not a walkable part of the highway. And then I carried on with my work, and I think like it wasn't long, maybe 15, 20 minutes later, this huge thunderstorm came, strong wind and lightning and thunder. And we took one of our pickup trucks, and I said we were going in the direction where the guy went. We found him by the side of the road. It was me and my driver, and he was all, wet and in mud because he's going next to the right side where all the big trucks are going, and nobody stopped for him. Nobody helped him, so we basically took his wheelchair, we put it in the back of our truck, and we put him inside. And I don't know if you ever seen people that are about to leave this planet. Like, even if you clean this guy up and you could tell he had like no life left in him. He was like almost done. And I really think back about it, and I think this was like the last act of kindness that he's seen on the planet. And to me, it was really like, it was like really close in terms of physical distance, and seeing that desperation reminded me of a lot of things, that I've experienced myself. And that's 2016. Now we fast forward 2022 when the full scale invasion started. And I saw a teenage girl. I think she was 19 at that time. She walked out in front of the packed football stadium on one prosthetic leg, and she said, "Look, they can take our land, they can even take a part of my body, but they cannot break me."
Wow.
And yeah, the whole stadium was wow. And that moment, I knew that I'm not just looking and thinking that I should do something. I am doing something. And that's when I started doing it. So it was 2022. And it took us until last summer. So it took almost 2 years to fly our first veteran. From the idea that I thought I would do it, to finding a place, organizing, finding a hero, because that was an issue too. Say I would like to take a hero and jump off the mountain with the guy who had amputations, right?
Uh-huh.
But we overcame all of those issues, and now it's going full force.
But why paragliding and adventure? I mean, how
Oh,
does it
it's,
help to?
it's, I hope you would ask that question, because this is probably the most important part. So
Yep.
in 2016, you mentioned that I was working for a failing nationwide infrastructure company, and I saw that I could not take a salary, because if I take a salary, the impact would be huge. We were super super tight, and paying people who work at the basic level was the priority, because Ukraine was the second poorest nation in Europe before the war started. So I said I'm not going. I cannot take the salary, and basically for Christmas in 2016 or 17, 2016, I think, the companies, they all pitched together, and they sent me for Christmas skiing in Austria, because my sport was skiing. And I walk into a hotel to check in, and I see this tandem paragliding. And I was like, okay, I never noticed it before or never paid attention to it. I check in, I turn around, and there's another one. Tandem paragliding is looking right at me. So I take the brochure, I go straight up into my room because, I believe in things like if you don't see something or don't pay attention to something ever, and then it's like twice in your face. So I took it as a sign. I called the number, said, hey, I'm on vacation here. Can we go flying? And the lady says, yeah, come tomorrow. She gave me a spot, and I showed up at the top of the mountain. We were flying from 2,100 meters, or 6,000 feet, a little over 6,000 feet. And she's like, this is your pilot, Mike. And Mike is like, hey, man, is this your first time? I'm like, yeah. He's like, mine too. It's a stupid paragliding joke, not really. They all think it's funny, but we take off, John. I skied all my whole entire life, and then I see chairlift is like disappearing somewhere, like way down below, and it looks small, and I'm thinking I'm gonna die. And I said goodbye to my dad, and I said goodbye to my brother, and then I'm like, okay, stop, man, just stop. It's okay, we'll land. And we landed, and I was like this at the landing. Like my mind is okay, but my hands are going. And then I decided that I have to learn how to do it myself, and I need to get good enough to fly live people, passengers. And it took Lyubim 6 years, but I, got my tandem license. And the idea was that if I was that scared, that I want to scare an amputee so much, because when you're going off the cliff, you forget. Like I forgot about all my problems. I thought I was going to die. Psychologists say if you put people through stressful but positive experience, it can reset. It can end the depression. It can begin it that positive experience of overcoming something and really like pushing that limit is that experience that may start something new. And it actually works, because when they're flying, it doesn't matter if they don't have legs or arms or whatever. It's the same. You just suspend it in the air. It's not our element. We're guests for a brief period of time, and they forget that they had an amputation, and they forget everything. All the issues are left on earth for a few minutes, and then
Mm.
we have a new person, rebirth.
Yes, now it makes sense. Like, let's say after a near death experience, you will often find your purpose in life or
Right.
enjoy it again, right? So, but what is the biggest lesson you have learned from working with so many wounded veterans? Like, what lesson have they taught you?
I would say first, number one is that they don't need pity. A lot of them, they don't need your pity. They're one of the strongest people that I've met, and I've met a lot of strong people because I was a professional skier. You know, they are an example to everyone. And when you see a guy or a girl who has a prosthetic leg, if they're going out and they're doing like some positive things, like for example, we have one guy who's rehabbing here for 1 month. He just got back on the bike for the first time. He had amputation in June, I think 20 something. It will be 2 years since he had an amputation, but he just got on the bike for the first time in 2 years, and he's super excited. So it really, the mission just took off on itself. We were thinking about something, one thing that it would be just paragliding, but now it's, we offer physical therapy. We added psychologists because a lot of them, they can get treatment, but they don't feel comfortable. And we created this space of camaraderie because I have really awesome volunteers, and they're always there, meaning like every day they wait for the sunset for, the guy who is rehabbing here for 1 month to show up and do whatever he wants to do. They go canoeing, they did like organized bike ride. He rode 8 miles almost. Yeah, he rode 8 miles, and now he wants to do 20 or 25. So like we have this day and night operation going around. They just show up, and they really say yes to everything. So one of the first thing is that they don't need the pity, and number two, that they're the strongest and the most resilient people that you can meet, and three, they set an example to everyone around. They set an example because they're so strong, and it's real. When somebody is missing a leg, it's for real. It's not an imaginary illness or something. But do you want to try this? Yes. Do you want to try this? Yes. Cycling, swimming, Pilates, whatever. They say yes to everything.
But I could only imagine, that like you said, initially they were hopeless. They didn't want to leave. They didn't have a purpose in life. They didn't know what to do with their life. But how do you rebuild a life or a mission, or your self-esteem, your
Mhm.
self-confidence? How do you rebuild yourself after everything falls apart?
It depends if you're doing it on your own or somebody is helping you. So if we're talking in terms of our mission, I basically create these little challenges that they know they can overcome, and if they cannot overcome them, there is this, there's always help around. So for example, I want them to leave their country, and I want them to leave their country, so in their mind they know I can go outside. Not only I can travel inside of my country, I can go outside and I can communicate with people who have, who speak a different language. Then I can be in that country and I can be independent in the sense I know where I need to go to get food. I know how to catch a taxi, not just like basic tasks. In our case, this guy who's rehabbing, he'll learn how to swim, like real swimming where you breathe in the water. He could swim like this, right? So he learns how to swim, he learns how to cycle, he's doing physical therapy, like he's doing all the things. And at the same time, I have an apartment for them, They live in an apartment, so they can go in and out, they go to the store, they go to the market by themselves in the foreign country. So talk about self-confidence. Like a month ago, somebody came back from war, they had an amputation, and then the system, you're done, and all they can do is sit at home and do nothing. And now they're independently traveling outside of their country, and not only traveling, they're living, they are in the culture, they're meeting people, they're not traveling. This is, first it was the resort, everything was controlled, but now I want them to go, I want them to experience, because they are getting that self-confidence and they're functioning like normal people, which they are normal people. But somebody told them, because you had an amputation, you cannot hear and the system is not supporting you, they don't accept that stuff anymore. So by providing positive experiences, and if that's when somebody's helping you. Now if you are in a situation where you need to rebuild for yourself, I think that making that decision, deciding, we talked about it earlier, you have to decide what you're going after.
Mm,
So if you are down and out and you have no options, then you have to make one decision. And that decision, that it's that thing that you probably thinking about for a long time. Like what would make you happiest, most successful, or whatever. So you make the decision, no matter what it takes, I'm going to get there. And then you get going. The first step, you just take one step at a time. And it's like carrying the mission. Have over 50,000 amputees in one country alone in the last 2 years. So we're talking about huge numbers. And I understand, if I think about them all, it becomes unmanageable. But if I think about one guy at a time, I don't know, can you see them?
yeah.
The guy in the middle needed rehab, so I have to take care of him. The guy in the red shorts needs psychological treatment, and he is in the VA hospital now, but then he will have to come here. So it's one guy or one girl at a time. And for you, it's what is the next step that I can take that will get me closer to my goal and dream. If you give me an example, Joanne, I can role play this and walk you through. But again, you make a decision and you find out, what do I need to do? And you just take those steps for as long as it takes. Here is the main part: as long as it takes. Being successful, you'll just see people stopping left and right, like they just stop. Nothing is going on except they decide, I'm done, I cannot do it anymore, I'm going to go do something else, I changed my mind, I didn't really decide, I didn't make the commitment. But the further you climb, you'll be more lonely. Because I meant alone. Yeah, well, running your businesses, you will be lonely and you will be alone, but that's part of the deal.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, yeah, for people who are listening, they are like everyday people, regular girl and guy. who might have caught in the, in the everyday life, going to work, coming back home without a sense of purpose and joy, which is what this podcast, I hope they are listening to, because they are here to find purpose or and joy.
Hmm.
So I'm just thinking about them, like they don't have a sense of purpose. Where do they even start? Because they don't know what
Okay.
to make, what kind of decision to make.
I,
Yeah.
I think they should go donate blood. Really. It's the easiest way to save a life. You go donate blood and you just know that tonight somebody will live because you did something. So if you can do, we all can do that. It's good. It's healthy for us, right? And imagine what's happening inside with the person who is lost, who just like now we're changing the story. It's not that I don't know what to do. I just say save somebody's life.
Mm,
And there is in Old Testament there is a saying: if you save one life, it's like you saved the whole world. So imagine if you just really you saved one life, it's like you saved the whole world. You're unlimited. You can do your next step is like maybe a soup kitchen. Spend one day with people who are less fortunate.
right.
And then you just starting to see and appreciate what you have a lot more.
I love that. Yeah.
It seems like I spend all my whole day, like when I don't talk to you, after we're done, we're gonna go. We have homework physical therapy. I just have to call rubber bands while he's exercising his amputated leg, and that's what I do. I am really doing that work. So I'm saying that the biggest thing that we can do on this planet is volunteer and provide service, because you will never get back that time. It's the time that you'll never get back. So you're totally shifting in a different on a different level, and then you start. That's your two big positive steps. And then you think about, okay, what makes me happy? Because at some point in life everyone was happy. Just go to that moment, like when are you what are you like doing? Look, I run a humanitarian mission. It's not, I know I'm not going to be a wealthy guy doing that. As a matter of fact, I will spend more money than I will ever raise because the need never ends. So but I know what it was like when I had a lot of money. And I remember being homeless because I started the business, and it's just a normal thing. In 2004 I was homeless. That's where I started from. And the happiest times actually come from being homeless, on Christmas having organic chicken. Like I tell it to everyone, it's one of my happiest times. Having organic chicken, we were in the motel by I-25, hearing trucks go down, with the engine brakes on Christmas, and we had organic chicken. That's like really happy. But then, seeing that the business is successful, I make so much money that I can work like 2 days a week, even not that. But seeing that my personal relationship is not going well, so you start thinking, okay, what's going to happen when things will get worse? That is a painful moment to think back. So having money or not having money, having a big house or not having a big house, it really has nothing to do with the happiness. And if the person is saying like, I don't know what to do, just do something that makes you happy. I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter now. It doesn't matter what makes you happy. If you're not interfering with other people, you should do it, with other people's happiness or health. But you have an activity that you like, just do more of that.
Mm,
That's how you get unstuck. Because and sometimes Jen, sometimes people may be so depressed that they need help.
yeah.
And I'm not talking about just talking to somebody. Most of the time talking to somebody helps you, and we all get overwhelmed and we need mentors and friends to talk with. But sometimes you need professional help. So it's really thinking, what do I need to get unstuck? What kind of resources I need to get well? And here is my decision: I will do whatever it takes, for how long as it takes, to get well, to find what makes me happy, and just try to do it as much as possible. Because if you think about it, I'm spending years trying to create a mission, and at the end, when the mission is working, right, the funding is working, the advertising is working, I know that the recovery part is working because that's what I concentrated on with. Then I can fly paragliders and I can do it more. So at the end of the day, in a few years, now I cannot fly because my mind is completely on the mission, and it's one of the rules: you cannot go paragliding if your mind is not on it. It's an extreme sport. But someday when it's running well, I will have more time to fly and I will be doing what I love doing.
But now I want to go back to talk about your story because you spend so much time talking about veterans and them. But I think you yourself, you're a hero, and you have been broke, like you said. You have been homeless. And also you have been financially independent, right? Multiple times you have made all the money in the world, and so you have been homeless and you have been financially abundant. So can you teach us anything about being resilient? For example, for people who are, let's say they started a business and they failed and they gave up or they wanted to give out. Like in that moment,
Okay,
what do you tell yourself? What do you do?
it's a great example because let's talk about business.
Yeah.
The reason somebody fails in business is because they didn't have a skill, some kind of skill that is a critical skill. But once you fail, you will learn that skill because your failure will be based around you not knowing what to do in that case. And if you failed and you went out of business, just know this, that whatever you learn this time will enable you to take the next step up because you cannot skip steps. So it's all how you look at the failure. Sometimes, a lot of times, the longer you live and the more you fail, you look back and you really think, okay, if I didn't fail there, if I didn't make this so called mistake, then I wouldn't be where I am right now. And if you ask me, I finally, after so many years of working really hard, I like where I'm at. Even though I have all the challenges plus more than I had before, I have more responsibilities, I have bigger goals, but I want to be here. And one of the things that, I really think it's appropriate to share with you listeners is that I talked to one of my best friends who I skied with. We went to the Olympics together in 1998. That was last century. That's like 27 years ago, okay? And he says, "Oh, wow, man, I really miss those times. Those were like the best times of my life." And I am thinking, like, whoa, that's like nothing happened for a quarter century. Because my best time and my most exciting time is right now.
Yes.
So whoever is, let's say we're talking about somebody that you failed at that business, it's going to be difficult and it's normal. You will have to go through this. If somebody wants to sell you a program with shortcut, I'm sorry, it's a marketing scheme because nobody knows the business that you were in.
Mm.
And first of all, you don't need to feel shamed or embarrassed that your mother-in-law or your relative or your friend, somebody told, "Oh, we told you so, you shouldn't have started it, it was a stupid idea." No, it was the best idea that you've done, and you've done it for yourself. And one day, like, we will all die. And I think the worst thing is to think about what if I tried that thing. I ran a financial planning practice for more than 10 years, and just so happens that people plan for some event, but then something happens and it doesn't work out. For example, I have clients that get married after high school. They're like high school sweethearts. Then they spend together 40 years. They work, they raise kids, they plan where they're going to retire. They buy that retirement house in another state. And, he's done, he's organizing all the things. She's still working, getting ready to like finish right before leaving. And then he gets a stroke, and then he cannot talk, he cannot think, and then he dies. And then everything goes out the window. Like yesterday everything was great, today a person got sick, and it's like this. It's like, we don't know how long we're going to be here. So you failed at that business, it's okay, you learned a lot of valuable lessons, you're more valuable at your next startup. You're not going to repeat the learning process, what you did from the beginning, you already know it. You're just going to go boom right to building up the business and probably marketing and getting your product to the client. So failure in business is probably the biggest step towards success, unless it stops you.
I have a question, which is, it might sound silly, but I think it's important. How do we know when to quit? In the very beginning, we talk about keeping a promise. But I feel like sometimes we need to quit because we are just not going the right direction, right? So quitting is just as important as
Okay.
continuing. So how do we know when to quit and when to continue?
Yes. This is really a subjective question, you know. I think the most objective answer I can give to this really subjective question is like, how do you really feel? Like, for example, my motivation is to to help as many people as possible. Like, I'm taking care of people who allow us to have this conversation freely and not worry about bad guys coming in, you know, bombing our town like we see it in many places around the world. Okay, first of all, it comes with experience, you know, because before I used to push through everything. Like, it doesn't matter what, I'm going to go to the end, I'm going to go to the end. And then you will get an experience where by your effort, you will win. But when you win, you don't want that win. Like, the best example would be like getting a client, like getting a big client. I have a financial planning company. I need to acquire assets. I'm going after the client who has a big portfolio, and I get that client, but then that client requires a lot of time. Like, it can walk into your office at any time and bring brochures from the competing company, or call you with some, like, not make appointments, not follow through. So basically, if you push through something and you don't like the outcome, you should have stopped. And in the future, you will know, I am not going to go after bad clients. I am not going to go after bad deals,
Mm.
like that. So one comes with experience, but another one, sometimes it can take so much of your time and effort to reach the goal. And when you reach the goal, you really hate it. I think at least one time in a lifetime, we all have to go through. If we see that, if we see something that's really important to us, but in reality it's not, and a lot of times it is accumulating money, because at some point it doesn't matter, your life will not improve if you accumulating, after you added so many zeros, like extra zero zero, it may make you feel better, but it will not change your last lifestyle because you're living your best lifestyle. Here is one: if I'm going after something that inspired me, then I know it's the right thing and I'm going to go after it.
Mm.
If it's something that I thought with like a pen and a paper in the office with a calculator, then it's probably not the one. But my life experience showed me that if a goal is meaningful to me and I spend 10 years working on it, I will be super satisfied at the end.
So when you were younger, when you were chasing success, I assume, right? When you were younger, you were hustling, chasing success, making money, just want to make money, right? You were working at Wall
Yes,
Street. Assume that's your goal, that's your motivation,
yes,
money, right? And what changed? Is it
yes.
because being at the World Trade Center at 9/11 when it happened?
No, I think the change was a consequence of different life events. Some were accidents, some were just, I was super aggressive. I was always growing the business. Like, the goal was to be number one. So I remember in the financial planning practice, it wasn't enough to be number one in Colorado. Then I had to expand in different states, and it was always growing, growing, growing. And then at some point, I find myself that I am living on the plane, flying between different cities. I had I think it was Hertz Gold membership, and I was trying all the new cars that came out, because you walk out the airport, your name is on the board, you get in, and they don't even look at you. So I tried a lot of nice cars, but outside outside of that, I did not ski. I didn't have time for friends. I didn't have time for family. I didn't have time to exercise, because it was all working, no vacation. I didn't really need weekends. I was really young, and it was just one thing that I wanted to get. I wanted to become financially independent. I did not want to feel, whatever you feel when you don't have money. You just feel less than, and you feel really insecure and unsafe, and it's a lot of pressure and stress living like that. And then I made it there, meaning financially. Emotionally, I felt really empty. Physically, I got out of shape, I gained weight, right? Then I lost connection with all the people that I knew, and I am a really social person, and by nature, like, I really need to talk to people. So all I'm talking are the people who I'm trying to get as clients. So I I turned into a robot, not a human being, and it was like a machine, robot machine, going looking for assets under management. And I'm sorry to say that, but that's what the reality of it was, because we get compensated. The more assets under management we have, the better our compensation is. So, I just worked, and I did all the things that I thought a successful businessman needs to do by investing in me, in learning skills and learning how to speak in public, and then learning whatever I needed to learn. And then I made it, and I realized, like, I'm just so unhappy. It probably was the most unhappiest time. So you have this financial comfort, right, that makes you relax and you don't need to run anywhere. But then on the other side, you're like always missing, you know, all the fun that you had with friends and the connection with the people that you love, and your free time and time to think about stuff. I hope I'm answering your question, but I filled the bank and I emptied all the inside. Like Lubim was totally empty.
What would you tell people who are still on the path of chasing success and money? And because they might be saying, it's easy for you to say because you have reached there, and I haven't reached there. I don't know what is it like to be rich. I could finally buy a house, buy
Whew.
a nice car, and do that, travel. So what would you tell them?
That it's not that easy for me, and I know what I'm saying, because I told you that I started when I was homeless. We're talking about 2004,
Yeah.
and then I co-authored the national bestseller with Steve Forbes in 2014. But all the money went to charities. All the proceeds were donated to charities. I haven't seen 1 cent from that. When I thought it was time for me to let's say, to materialize, or cash out on all the hard work, I chose a company in Ukraine, that couldn't even pay my salary. So I know what it's like making hard choices. Of course, there is a minimum that we all need to secure, but if you're thinking about the fact that you're going to die, and when you are on that dying bed, like, really, what am I going to think about? I'm so glad that I stayed in America and didn't try what I can do in a place that has no structure, no guarantees, like no roadmap, nothing. And I didn't even start Wings for Heroes. I didn't have that idea. And I didn't meet the most resilient people who are missing body parts, but they like want to do stuff. They just need, like, to find somebody who can say, yeah, man, come on, I'll push you off the mountain. You can do it. It's all really hard, but at the end of the day, Joanne, I'm turning 50 in 2 weeks. And I know that I spent the 24 years in America were super hard. Like, I've experienced everything a first generation immigrant experiences, the one who goes from, like, the very bottom to the very top. I have traveled that road. And what I can say is that when you make that decision that you're going to go there, and whatever that there, like, you can mention, it doesn't matter what's important to you, as long as it's important to you. It's money, it's status, it doesn't matter what it is. As long as you're going after what's important to you, and just enjoy the journey. Like, it's the only way to get there. And once you realize there is no other way, like, nobody can sell you a course on how you're going to get to your dreams. People can help you. People are really good at helping you, and we all need help. But at the end of the day, it's you or who's going to take that one step. So just take one and one more. And when you cannot do it, just make yourself do one step. Like, can you do one more? Just one.
Yes.
And one more. And one more. And then 10 years later, you get there and you're saying, well, I listened to this guy. He said, just try one step. And I tried, and I didn't stop because I know everybody's going to drop off. But to me, it's important. So I just took one more step, longer than anybody else. Look at Jeff Bezos. Look at Elon Musk. Like, these guys, like, they lived at work. Elon Musk goes back to living at work again. Like, their work ethics is what is being resilient, is doing what you have to do whenever you need to do it, regardless of you want it or not. And you do it 100% of the time, all the time. There are no exceptions. All the time until you get there. Because every time you stop, somebody can pass you and your idea is invalid. or if you stop there, you may take too much momentum to restart again, and you have to go all the way from the beginning because you forgot. I know, I'm writing books like this. I would write 90% of a book, and then 3 months later I'm restarting because I don't remember the, you know.
Powerful.
It's hard for everybody. I'm sorry to tell you that I don't have a magic wand, but I have experience and seeing a lot of people fail and seeing a lot of people make it. The ones that make it, it's important to them. They decided, and they just kept going and going and going, and they don't care. They just go after their dreams until they cannot go anymore.
Yeah. Powerful. Now, is there anything else that you really want to talk about? Perhaps I didn't ask you or didn't let you.
I think, maybe I would share what I see as the greatest threat to the Western society, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Okay. You see, I think that especially it's true, I think, after COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Like, our world has learned how to work like this. Like, we are in different parts of the world.
Yep.
I do not need to leave my room. You do not need to leave your room. We can transact over the screen and then electronically pay each other, order food, clothing, whatever. We don't need medicine. We don't need to leave our home. So what happened in the past few years, it's been happening for a long time, but past few years we've been all divided. This whole divide and conquer. So first of all, we are all divided. We are not really seeing ourselves as like this community when we had to interact with each other. Like, I just went to Denver, downtown Denver. I left 2015, and this time I just saw no people. I mean, I was outside of the biggest building in downtown Denver, the Republic Plaza, where on Friday at 5 o'clock you see hundreds, if not thousands, of people going out. That's 2015. I was wondering where the people were, and I went on Friday to the busiest building. There were like three came out in 20 minutes at 5 o'clock. So to me, it was like, wow, the world has changed. Like, we are doing our things, and we don't really go to places where we used to have a community. So what happens is that we just lose the human part where we care and empathize with others. So, I think it's really becoming really easy for people to turn away when somebody else is suffering. We were in the park, it was about a month ago, and my friend says, look, I'm watching at this lady, old lady, she's like suffering with her stroller. And he said, I want to go and help her, but something inside of my mind is saying, what if she doesn't need your help? What if you insult her? But he says, like, I know she is struggling. So what I'm saying is that I think the biggest threat that is facing Western society is apathy. That somebody, you can be next to somebody who needs help and you can just turn away and look in the other direction.
Yeah.
And in my case, I picked a task. It picked me, but the people, the veterans, they're important is because they are dealing with the bad guys. And if you look at what's going on around the world, we are not in a peaceful place. The veterans, they're important is because we had a contract with them. It's like a societal contract. They went away to take care of us, so we can be free. And the deal is that if anything happens to them and they come back missing a body part or whatever happens, we have to take care of them. So that's one of the things. Like, on the personal level, I could not look away from that. And that's why Wings for Heroes is running, and people like you who still invite me. And I hope I was able to shine some light on the dark spot that you had in your mind.
Yes. Now, tell my people, how can we support your beautiful mission in any way we
uh,
can?
Obviously, the Wings for Heroes is running, and we just started fundraising event because it was all self-funded for 2 years. Because I thought that we needed to do something before asking people for help. And basically, if you go to wingsforheroes.org, all the information is there. And I'm posting all the public videos that are posted. They are also on the website. So I think if you look through it and it resonates with you, the donate button is right there. And if somebody really wants to see how we run the mission, we are open source organization. You can come. You also can hit the contact button and ask me any questions. It's all on wingsforheroes.org.
Beautiful. Now, thank you so much again for joining us and speaking so powerfully with me and my listeners. And thank you so much for sharing your story. but we always end with our final five rapid fire questions. So
Oh,
every
okay.
question, every question has to be answered in either one word or one sentence maximum.
Okay.
First question is, what is one thing you wish you knew earlier?
Follow your heart.
Love that. If you could relive one day of your life, which day would it be?
One day,
Mm-hmm. You can have a one day do over. Which day would it be?
probably my birthday.
Like the day you were born?
Any. Ah,
Huh. And
no.
what would you do differently? I mean, what can you do differently?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't do anything differently. Yeah, really, there's so many. There are three that the few that comes up, but probably walking through the Olympic tunnel, the opening ceremony at the Olympics was a really cool moment.
Yeah. Wow. Sure. Now the next question is, if you could master one skill you don't currently have, what would it be?
Singing,
Really?
yes.
Okay. I wasn't expecting that.
Okay, good.
Funny. If you could instantly solve one problem in the world, what would it be?
I would probably eliminate apathy because I think it's a lot of people just it's so easy to look away, and when you look away at things that you should be stepping in and taking care of, that is a big difference. When you step in for somebody who is weaker than you are, that's a person with character does, but the person who just apathetically looks away when somebody's struggling, that's why we have so many problems in the world. Like if everybody faced the issue and said, look, I see this, I can help here, I am stepping in, that would be we would be living in a very different world.
You're so right. And I must say, it's not just in the Western countries or societies, everywhere in the world. We so often
Of course.
on our phone all the time, right? We don't observe what is happening, our surrounding, or people who need help. So, yeah, everywhere. Now, next question is, what is one adventure you have never had but you would love to experience?
I always wanted to go skiing in the southern hemisphere. I would go to somewhere in South America, like right now, skiing June or July because it's winter there,
Right. Sounds beautiful.
like Chile or Argentina.
Yeah. Well, I could only think about wine. Yeah, but sounds fun. The last question is, what brings you the greatest joy?
Accomplishing big goals. Like really, the longer, the bigger it takes, the more joy I have.
Really?
Yep.
Huh. I like that perspective.
But if you want for the activity, of course, paragliding.
No, it's yeah, because I mean everything that brings you joy. But yeah, because I tend to think, go. I don't know. I I have this, I have this mindset that, or it's just people tell me that when you reach your goal, it's just like 5 minutes of happiness. It's like, okay, what's next? What can I do next? Things like that. Yeah.
Oh, this is a really. I think this is a good place for us to like spend some time before ending. It's
Sure.
that's I think that's the big issue that a lot of people have. I think it creates a lot of. We were never taught how to celebrate.
Yep.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
like we were taught that it's never enough, and you got to go after the next thing, after the next thing. But
Yep.
actually, you have to. I think that people who celebrate their victories, they're more likely to succeed. And for somebody, a victory could be picking up the phone or now writing an email. Because if you are afraid of doing something, excuse me, you need to send an email to grow your business, or go knock on the door, do whatever, but you're not doing it. You have to get through that uncomfortable part.
Yes. Because success is on the other side, right? Of your comfort zone. So
Exactly.
yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, because so you get to the goal, you spend the time, you get to the goal, and you start thinking about the next goal, but you didn't really refill, your emotional, your physical, you get to the big goal, you need to take a break. You go on vacation, you turn off the phone, you sleep, you say, hey, I am the best. I got it done. Like, I am recharging and now I'm going to do something next. So I think if you celebrate your successes, you're more likely to get to a bigger goal, because a big goal consists of little accomplishments, those little steps. And so I
Yeah.
think celebrating and pausing is important, not like what's next. And your mind is, never enough and never no break.
Yeah. You're so right. Yeah, definitely. You will need to celebrate more, right? I mean, life itself is a celebration. So we should celebrate every day. Thank you. Thank you so much. I could talk to you forever, but don't want to take too much.
Thank you, Jan.
But yeah, I really enjoy our conversation. It just helps
I
me
did
to
too.
like
Thank you.
reframe my mindset as well. Sometimes you just need to talk to people like you to become more positive and motivated in life to pursue your goals. So
You make a decision and you do one step at a time. That's all.
yes, guys, that's all. That's the secret to success, I guess. Now, guys, I know you learned a lot from today's episode and you love it and you are feeling empowered right now and ready for your own comeback. Go follow Lubin, go, support his mission any way you can, donate, volunteer if you are around the country. I don't know where, but where are you based, by the way? Yes, where is the base?
We are running the program in Turkey, and we are going to be in the States in November in San Diego. So the first spot that we're starting in the States is San Diego, but in Europe we are in Turkey. We have the sea, the mountains, and awesome volunteers. So this is the place.
Beautiful. Yeah. So if you are in Europe or you are in San Diego, volunteer if you can, or just go meet Rubin. I'm sure he would love to host you or meet you. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss another episode coming to you every Wednesday. And I will always leave you the same way as I leave you with every other episode. Show up. The world needs you and you need you. Thanks for listening, and I wish you all a joyful and amazing day ahead. Thank you again for tuning into Find Joey Joanne podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, take a screenshot and share it on your IG story and tag Find Joey Joanne _podcast so I know you are listening. And leave us a positive review on Apple Podcasts if you haven't already done so. And remember to hit the subscribe button whether you are listening on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, or any of your other favorite platforms. If you love what we are doing and want to become one of our sponsors, you can send me a DM to connect. And thanks for being here. I will see you soon in the next episode.